What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our Week 9 NCAA football preview and picks. As always, I got Ty joining me here to break down this week's biggest games. But before we get into it, we got to talk about last week. And, I had a pretty good week, to say so myself, 7-3. Only three losses with the three losses that we had combined together. And obviously, on the flip side, Ty, the three games that we picked differently, I got right. So obviously, someone had to be the fall guy this week, and it looks like it was you.
Yeah, it looks like it was. Biggest takeaways, obviously, Indiana is for real. I mean, we got to start taking them seriously, even with Rourke out. Michigan sucks. I mean, there's no way around that. We're not good this year. And I'd say Tennessee is back and Georgia is back. Those two teams really showed a lot. Obviously, I picked against both of them,
Mhm.
but safe to say they're both back. Georgia might be the number one team, not the number one ranked team, but they might be the best team in the country right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Notre Dame, obviously, we had that game on there. Came out, had a good performance. Miami, scraping by, but wins are wins. And even our Broncos, our Western Michigan Broncos, getting
Yep.
that road win, staying undefeated in the MAC, and looking like they might be the team that could be representing the MAC if somehow, some way they can get into the playoff. But we'll go back, stay with last week. Brutal week for me. The only thing I got right was the Tennessee +3 because they obviously won the game. And then everything else was just red, so not a pretty look there.
Yeah, I feel good about my 3-3 to be honest, because the worst way to lose when you bet is a heartbreaker. You got hope until the end of the game. And two of my losses, Nebraska and West Virginia, they just got boat raced. So you didn't even have to stress about that when you knew it was over and you could just go put in the bet on your next game. So if you're going to lose, that's the way to do it.
I agree. Hopefully, this week we can change the tide a little bit. I'm going with Syracuse actually right now kicking off. I'll take the +5 at Pitt. I think that it's going to be a great game, going to go back and forth. Same with Boise State, UNLV. I like the over in the points. I think that game really could decide who is the 12th seed in the playoff this year. Notre Dame Navy under. I think regardless who wins that game, you're probably looking at a 24-21 kind of game, maybe even less than that. Indiana 6.5 versus Washington. They're going to keep it rolling. Like you said, we got to take it serious. Vandy, I like Vanderbilt 18.5 at Tech against Texas at home. There to beat Bama at home once. Why can't they beat Texas at home? So I like the points there. And then Colorado 6.5 for Cincy. I think it was -4 this line started at. Now it's already up to 6.5. So obviously a lot of people are liking Colorado this week, and so does Vegas.
Yeah, so my Missouri bet doesn't look as great now with Brady Cook out. We're still going to roll with it. Alabama, obviously, uh, struggling a little bit right now, kind of reeling, coming back home. I think there might be a little hangover from last week. Oregon, I know 21 and a half is a lot of points against a ranked team, but Illinois, they beat Michigan. And from what we've seen, Michigan is just nothing on offense.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's all that impressive. So I think Oregon still covers and blows out Illinois. Texas A&M, you'll see later. I'll spoil it now. I have them winning, so obviously I'm going to take them to cover. Penn State, I still think people are sleeping on them, even though they're ranked number three. I still think they're a really good team, and Wisconsin is just maybe a year away still. So I think they cover that small spread. Oklahoma State, I was surprised by this one, +7 at Baylor. And Oklahoma State still has Ollie Gordon. I mean, I know they've struggled, but they still have a top five running back. So I think they, at the least lose by less than seven. And yes, you're seeing that right. I'm betting against my own team. Um, I think Michigan maybe squeaks this game out, but this line started at, I think it was 6.5, maybe seven. It's already down to 3.5. One team has a quarterback, the other doesn't. And one team has always been hungrier in this rivalry. And both of those are Michigan State. So I think they cover, maybe win.
Yeah, and then we're going to start with the game that's currently kicking off right now. I'm going with the Qs on the road. I think Kyle McCord and company quietly been putting together some good performances, and I think on national television, they're going to go in the pit, knock off an undefeated team, and probably be ranked close to what Pitt is ranked right now at this point next week. I think they can do it. The Big Orange going to put the ACC on notice, and I had high expectations coming into the season. If you can get this win right here, you might be lining up with a date with either Clemson, Miami, or maybe you're the odd man out, but you got to win this game if you want to even think about that.
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth on this one, but I'm going with Pitt. Night game at home. I think it's gonna be a tough environment for Syracuse, and this has been like a dream season for Pitt. They're with the likes of BYU, Indiana, Iowa State, teams that are just undefeated out of nowhere. I think they keep it going. I see this being a really, really close game, but I think Pitt has just enough to win at home.
Then moving to Friday night football, it's going to be a great game and definitely a game you want to watch if you want to probably know what team is going to be the 12th seed in this year's playoff. You got Boise State. Obviously, Genty is the biggest story in college football this year. Probably going to win the Heisman, if not be the second place vote getter. Then you got UNLV, the whole NIL scandal that happened a month ago. Pretty much half the team isn't getting paid, yada, yada. Guys have to step up, players leave. And this team somehow, some way is still willing their way to wins, and they're 6-1. So whoever, like I said, whoever wins this game probably going to represent not only the Mountain West, but that group of five team in the playoff this year.
Yeah, I could see these teams playing again at the end of the season for the Mountain West Championship. But this time, defense and running game is usually what travels when you play a game on the road. So it probably helps when you have the best running back in college football. So I think Boise State, same formula for them. Feed Ashton Genty, and I think he's going to lead them to a win here. I actually think they win this game comfortably on the road.
Then moving to Saturday, got Notre Dame going on the road to face an undefeated Navy. Obviously, coming into this year, nobody thought Navy would be 6-0 at this point in the season, and then this would be a huge game. Obviously, it's on ABC, so a lot of people are going to be tuning in this one because I think it's going to be more of how is Notre Dame going to play against a team that's clicking on all cylinders. I think Notre Dame's going to get a win. By how much? That's the biggest question. Obviously, I'm taking the under in this one. With that being said, I think this is going to be like one of those 2017 kind of Notre Dame scrapes by, ugly win kind of game.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be close. This would be my seventh choice for locks. I'd take Navy to cover. Seems like they always give Notre Dame a rock fight, and now this year, obviously, they're 6-0 and a top 25 team. But that being said, Notre Dame has been playing just as well as anyone in the country since that Northern Illinois game. I know that's hard to look past, but they've just been dominating everyone. And I think they continue their winning ways here, get to 7-1, and they control their own destiny still to go to the playoffs. And I could see them doing that.
And also at 12, I think this game's kind of a crime why it's only on Big Ten Network, but it's going to be a better game than I think people are going to notice. Washington, Indiana. Obviously, Indiana is getting College Game Day this week too, so it's a big weekend there in Bloomington, and they're going to keep it rolling. 6.5, I think they're going to cover that. And Washington, they're a decent football team, but they don't travel well, at least in the Big Ten that we've seen this year. So give me the Hoosiers to get to 8-0 and possibly set up a date, down the line. They could be 10-0 headed into Columbus, and that could be a huge game.
Big thing for them is they need to get Curtis Rourke healthy down the stretch. But I do think they're going to be able to pull out this win. Big thing for them is can they stop Will Rogers in the deep ball? That's one thing that Washington used to beat Michigan. Michigan played a lot of press coverage, and he hit on a couple deep balls, and they pulled the upset at home. So as long as Indiana can keep the ball in front of them on defense, I think they'll have just enough to get this win. And like you said, they just got to keep winning, get to 9-0 going into Columbus, and who knows if they can be at full health.
Yeah, then at 3:30, this is where it really starts to get good. You got lots of ranked matchups coming here at you. And we're going to start it off with Missouri, Alabama. Like you said, Brady Cook announced that he's out. So I'm not surprised if this line actually changes here drastically towards closer to kickoff. So if you're really going to bet this Alabama spread, probably get it now before they really change it. And I like Bama at home. They're going to come down from that loss, tough loss on the road in Tennessee, and they're going to put it to Missouri because this Missouri team is squeaking by, still at 6-1, and don't be surprised when they fall out of the rankings.
Yeah, with Brady Cook, I thought this was going to be a one-score game. Alabama, they were struggling before the Tennessee loss, so I don't really see this being like a huge bounce back performance for them where they just come out and dominate. Because obviously they had their struggles already had a loss anyway. Missouri's got talent. I know they've kind of struggled this year, but just without Brady Cook, I don't see it. So I think Alabama wins by multiple scores and gets out of here with a comfortable victory.
And then another big game, like you said, Illinois, ranked team, but Oregon, number one in the country, undefeated at home, 21 and a half points. I'm kind of on your side here. I think Illinois is a good team, but they're just not ready to compete with the big dogs this year, especially on the road going into Eugene. good luck. The Ducks are actually playing really well. Now, I'm saying if this is week two, week three, Illinois might go in there and escape with a victory, but Oregon's figured it out right now, and I expect them to just keep on rolling.
Yeah, Illinois, I think, is built like a slightly better version of Michigan. Like if they get punched in the mouth early, I don't know if they have enough firepower to recover. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Oregon's going to build an early lead, and it's just going to be too much for Illinois. So I actually picked Oregon to cover that big spread. I think they dominate this game, similar to that Purdue game, like a 31-7 type of game. And they prove why they're ranked number one.
Then at 4:15, got to talk about this game. A ranked Vanderbilt for the first time in I don't know how long, but it's been a long time, at least when I've started caring about college football. And then you got Texas going on the road. I think Texas is still going to walk away with this victory, but don't be surprised if Vanderbilt keeps it close throughout the whole game. Because, like I said earlier, they beat Bama at home. So why can't they beat Texas at home and keep it close at least? So give me Texas here on the road in Vandy, but definitely going to have a lot of eyes on it than it should have at least a few weeks ago.
Yeah, unfortunately for Vanderbilt, they're going to have Texas's full attention for this game. Obviously, pulled the shocker over Alabama. So Texas knows that, and now they're coming off, just getting pretty humbled by Georgia, to put it lightly. They were dominated in that first half. So that's, really a look in the mirror for them. So they're looking for a bounce back this week. And, like I said, Vanderbilt with that upset. So Texas knows exactly what they're going into. So I don't see it happening again. I think Texas runs away with this game in the second half and gets out of Nashville, unlike Alabama, with a win.
And then moving to 7:30, you want to talk about probably the biggest game of the week. I think it's this one. LSU, Texas A&M, both these teams undefeated in SEC play. And this could be for a spot in the SEC championship, if we're going to be honest. I mean, it's kind of getting to that point where after this game, there's only 4 games left. The chance for a slip up is there, but a lot has to happen for you to lose two. And I like the Tigers here on the road. I'm really high on LSU. And Brian Kelly, he hasn't had a bad season in my eyes um, in the last 2 years at LSU. And I think he just keeps on rolling here. A&M, they seem to choke around this time every year and fall to 8-4, 9-3 territory. And I think this is going to be the game where it starts.
I'm going the opposite direction here. I'm going with the upset for the Aggies. LSU obviously has got their way to 6-1. Still hard for me to look past that loss to USC because they just have been in a free fall right now. In Texas A&M, I know they lost to Notre Dame at home week one, but they weren't fully healthy in that game. Now they are, and they've won 6 straight since then, including that domination of Missouri. So I think, say what you want about the 12th man. I know they've been getting dogged a little bit. That's still a really tough place to play at night. And I think that's going to be just enough for Texas A&M to get the upset here. And they're a team to watch out for if they can do that.
And then on NBC, you get Penn State, Wisconsin, a very quiet Penn State team that's flying under the radar, like you said, third in the nation, 6-0, and probably in the media's eyes, the third, maybe fourth best team in the Big Ten. I mean, it's definitely up for debate there. But hey, this team 6-0 going in. I think probably this is their real tough challenge on the road that they'll face all year, honestly, because there's not really too much left on the schedule for them. They're going to be jumping around, but I don't think it's going to be a very energetic one because I think Penn State is going to get on them early and often and really have this game kind of put away in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Penn State reminds me of the recent Jim Harbaugh Michigan teams where they kind of just suck the life out of teams they're playing. They're not going to put up 40 or 50 points. They're not going to light it up on offense, but they are just winning games by 3 scores seemingly every week, and just running the ball, playing really good defense, doing everything you need to do to win football games. And I think that's really going to help them on the road this week. Like I said earlier, defense and run game travels, and Penn State is excelling in both of those. So I think Wisconsin maybe next year could win a game like this, but not this year. So Penn State gets the win.
And then obviously we have to talk about it because, got a lot of people in Michigan watching this game. Our Wolverines at home against the Spartans. And, obviously I'm going to take Michigan because we're both Michigan fans. So obviously there. But I will give Michigan State credit here. What they did to Iowa last week, I don't think it was just eye-opening, but I think that could be the program rejuvenation, I want to say. for Michigan State because you know what they did this offseason, bringing in Childs, bringing in the head coach Smith. They're looking to turn a page on that Mel Tucker and Dan Antonio fiasco the last few years. And if they can go into the big house, obviously Michigan, there's kind of the same caliber as Michigan State this year. So it's a pretty evenly matched up game. If Spartans go into Michigan, get a win, maybe that little brother narrative might be turning a page here as well with the new things happening in the Spartans locker room in East Lansing. And this could be a really good rivalry for the next few years as a lot of things are happening in both these programs.
Yeah, big time. I think one program is ascending, one is descending. Um, a couple weeks after this week, I think the line would probably be favoring Michigan State the way both programs are going right now. But I think wishful thinking maybe, but I think Michigan has just enough to pull this off. If they can avoid getting beat by the deep ball like they did against Washington, and I will say one thing for anyone betting, I'll just burst your bubble now. Will Johnson's not going to play this game. There's zero chance he plays. If he's questionable, just mark him as out. So that's going to be a big loss for Michigan. But I think maybe they go back to Alex Orji in this game and just pound the rock, and maybe that's the way they can get the win. But either way, it's going to be an ugly game. I am wishfully riding Michigan, but Michigan State has been the team with the chip on their shoulder in this rivalry for a while, and I think that's still the same. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, all I gotta say is I'm super excited to watch this game this year. And we're gonna go to SMU and Duke. And honestly, this game you could be tuning into late, because I think this game could be closer than people think. You know, we were looking at Duke's schedule and who they beat, not really promising there. And SMU has played some good teams, and they're 6-1, and could be a sneaky team in the ACC in a few weeks here if they just keep on winning games. I think they're gonna go on the road get another big win for them. The Mustangs probably are going to move up in the rankings, and maybe they're going to be one of those at-large teams with a week or two left in the season that could squeak in if some teams start falling.
Yeah, I think SMU is definitely a team to watch out for. I mean, they struggled out of the gate a little bit, and they lost to BYU at the beginning of the season, and everyone kind of wrote them off. Well, now BYU's ranked in the top 10 and they're undefeated. So they only have that loss. They're undefeated in the ACC. Now they're ranked again. So I think a lot of people are sleeping on SMU. And Duke, same record as SMU, 6-1, but we were going over their schedule before this video. They really haven't played anybody. So I think that's why you see the line as big as it is. And I think SMU does win by double digits in this game. I think it'll be a pretty comfortable win, and they're going to continue to put themselves on the map every week.
And then the last game we got this week for you, huge game in the Big 12 for not just playoff implications, but Big 12 championship implications as well. And I'm going with the Buffs here at home. Like I said earlier, this line was at 4. I think it was to start the week. Now it's already up to 6.5. So the Buffs, Vegas, they love them this week. And what Dion has done in year 2, I think is kind of what everyone expected him to do in year 1. So I think a lot of people are hating on the Buffs this year because they're actually succeeding and playing some good football. Now, Travis Hunter got hurt last game. I think he's good to go for this week. I'm not really sure, but regardless, they still have a very good offense, good receiving room, can run the ball. And as long as Shador Sanders is out there, he always gives this Colorado team a chance to win. And, it's one of those Pac-12 games, kind of feels like after dark, where those games kind of really can go either way. And I wouldn't be shocked if this game comes down to a final possession. But, I'm going with the Buffs here to keep the dream alive to not only go to the Big 12 championship, but possibly get into the playoff.
Yeah, I will say I've had my doubts about Colorado going into this season, but I've been very impressed with them. Last year obviously started 3-0, got media all over them, ESPN, everyone else posting about them all the time. And I think it really annoyed some people because they were like, where are the wins? Well, now here they are. They're 5-2, chance to get to 6-2 and already be bowl eligible. And people forget this team won one game in 2022. So Dion came into basically nothing. And like I said, I had my doubts, but they're proving me wrong every week. So now I'm going with Colorado to win this game. And I think they could make some noise down the stretch in the Big 12.
Yeah, that's going to be it for our week 9 preview and picks. Check back next week to see what games we got for you and obviously the results of those big games with big implications. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.